Hey y'all, I'm Dominique and welcome back to my channel. I got the question the other day asking if someone should major in microbiology, and I wanted to give my perspective and insight into the journey that I had in college studying microbiology. In this video, we are diving into my undergraduate degree and going over all the cool science classes that I got to take, my extracurricular experiences, and how my undergrad prepared me for the jobs that I've had in the STEM field and my current job now working in healthcare. For background, I graduated from the University of West Georgia with a Bachelor of Science in Biological Science and a focus in microbiology with a pre-professional concentration. I had aspirations to have a medical-based job related to both infectious disease and public health that would allow me to help patients in the hospital setting. During COVID, I went back to school for a post-bac to become a certified medical laboratory scientist in the United States. I currently work in medical microbiology, which is a hospital-based job where I identify potential pathogens. The pathogens that we identify are many kinds of bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi, and molds. So as a biology major, my courses in general were all about the study of life. And the way the degree plan was structured is that you take a variety of courses to cover all of the biology disciplines, but you choose one discipline to focus your upper level classes in. So let's talk about the disciplines. In physiology, this studies how life forms move and grow. Some of the courses I took included human anatomy and physiology, as well as comparative physiology, which is a class that examines the different classifications of animals at the species level and compares the organ systems to the human body and how they are similar and different. Zoology studies the kingdom Animalia, which covers several classes of animals down to the species of sponges, arthropods, mammals, fish, birds, reptiles, etc., etc. One of the classes I took in this category was History of Vertebrates, which basically studies the theory of evolution for a wide range of animals, from microbial size to the most complex forms of life. Ecology and evolution studies how life forms interact and evolve over time. I did not really like ecology, but I appreciate that the discipline gave me a more well-rounded view of microbial life, to understand that these microorganisms are capable of inhabiting everything from organisms like us to rocks and plants to bodies of water, like literally anything. The ways that they can adapt to sustain their life is very interesting. Cell molecular biology studies chemical and molecular processes like genetics, gene expression and regulation within the cells and as they undergo replication and the cell cycle. Biochemistry studies the building blocks of life, as in proteins, lipids, carbs, and nucleic acids, and all the biochemical reactions to build up or break down these substances. And microbiology, which was my discipline of choice. In the microbiology discipline, my classes revolved around the diversity, physiology, anatomy, and genetics of microbes. I took all of my courses under a bacteriologist, so bacteriology is the subdiscipline of microbiology that I learned about the most under their expertise. We're going to briefly talk about all the classes I took related to the microbiology discipline. So the first class is microbiology. This introduction class gives you an overview of microorganisms, which includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, molds, protozoa, like any organisms that we cannot see with our eyes. Medical microbiology was another class that I took. This class shows us how microorganisms cause disease, how our immune system responds to fight those infections, and the process of identifying medically significant organisms. Pathophysiology and pharmacology. I actually took a whole year of this course, and it was literally a bunch of disease states and how we can use different medications as a therapy for treatment. We went over all of the therapeutic drug classes, but of course my takeaway was antibiotic and their target of action for treating microbial infections. Bacterial pathogenesis goes over all of the pathogenic bacteria of medical significance and how they cause disease in humans and ways that we can treat infections, like with antibiotics, plus some epidemiology related to infectious diseases in medicine. And then I did an independent study in medical mycology. This course was not going to be offered at my university because they did not have a mycologist to teach it, so I asked for approval to take it as an independent study instead. I had a self-study of me just learning on my own about all the medically significant fungi. So that was interesting because mycology in itself is fun to learn about. There's up-and-coming research to help us gain a better understanding of fungi and molds. So it's just fascinating how fungal mechanisms compare to animals and plants in regards to adaptations and their growth characteristics, and how they cause disease in us, as well as how hard it is to treat fungal infections. Like, you can go down a rabbit hole of information. Emerging pathogens was another course I took, and this was probably my favorite one. This class was more of a graduate level course, but my advisor just let me take it. When I tell you it was over all the bioterrorism agents and all the recent outbreak cases, it had me shook with the amount of threats and how easily we can be taken out by microorganisms. I think I did my project on Francisella tularensis. This is a bacteria that can infect you from handling rabbits and rodents, but it's so contagious that it's a class A threat to humanity. Like, up there with anthrax. Like, I remember one day I asked my professor and a classmate what they thought was the next big threat to public health. It was like summer 2019. At the time, Ebola, Marburg, and Zika virus were like the most recent threats to America. So I'm debating that a novel bloodborne virus would be more serious than anything, that the hemorrhagic effects would kill us all too fast for us to have time to study the pathogen and develop a plan in a timely manner. My classmate argued that it would be an opportunistic yeast that somehow became pathogenic to us all, and it would just also take too long to treat the infection before it went systemic. And my professor was just like, y'all are being very extreme. And so they were saying that it would be a respiratory virus. And lo and behold, a year later, COVID shuts down the world to a standstill. So that was a crazy time. And of course, I understand it more now that I'm working in the hospital and I'm versed in chain of infections. I see why a respiratory virus would do a lot better than most other microbes at pathogenesis. And also, this class, it gave me a foundation in bioterror. So now that I'm working in microbiology, I'm trained to be more cautious about the unknown microbes from patient specimens because we initially do not know what it is until we can work the organism up for identification. And every day at work, when I'm plate reading, and specifically blood cultures, I think back to this class because sometimes if it's your first encounter with a microbe that you've never seen before, you don't know what's growing until you figure out a way to identify it. And that's if we have the means to do so in a sentinel lab type of setting. My last class was my senior capstone. It was nothing related to microbiology like I wanted it to be, but I did my capstone on microplastics and its effect on the ocean. It was a literature review on its overall negative impact in the world and how it affects animals and the environment, as well as how we can reduce the use of microplastics in our everyday life. So that was eye-opening, and that is also something I think about every day at work in healthcare. We have so many single-use items in hospitals, especially in the laboratory, causing for an enormous amount of waste. But the conservationalist in me would love to figure out a better way. I just can't think of one. So yeah, those were my classes, and throughout my undergrad, I also spent time gaining experience in the biology department in a few different ways. The main way that I gained experience was teaching. I worked as a peer tutor for 3 years, helping other students study all the classes offered by the biology department. I also assisted professors in teaching lab courses sections. That meant helping with experiments, answering questions, grading assignments, anything that they needed assistance with. I, for one, would have never guessed that I would enjoy teaching. So I'm really happy that I decided to take up this opportunity because I don't really like public speaking, but I love talking about science. And just being able to understand complex topics and having the ability to explain it in a way that someone else can understand it is very rewarding to me. I also had other jobs on campus, like I was a student operations leader in admissions department. So I was responsible for reviewing high school transcripts to see if they qualified to be admitted for our university. I also had a job in residence life as being like the patrol person or something like that. So there's many opportunities on campus to get like student jobs. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there and trying things and seeing what you like and what you don't like. And among other things, I was also inducted into Tri Beta Biological Honor Society and Order of Omega, which are both honors to have because it shows that all the hard work you're doing as a student is being recognized. I also received several scholarships over the years and stuff for academic excellence, diversity, as well as healthcare-based scholarships. And I also took on roles in organizations to help me gain leadership skills as well. So I feel like I had a very well-rounded undergrad with many different experiences. Something else I did was that I assisted a grad student for a summer with research. And I learned what it was like to be in an academic research lab environment. And that was so cool because it was a marine biology thesis and I love fish and I love microbiology. And I was tasked with the job of growing the fish's food. So the PI developed like an incubation system, and so I was able to grow brine shrimp with eggs and feed the fish daily for the experiment. And it was also my job to help observe the fish for signs of infection and illness. So being a part of research was such a cool opportunity for me, and to this day it makes me want to pursue a PhD just because of how creative and innovative you get to be. But I don't know if I can do it for real because my only regret is not getting my own undergrad research to qualify for PhD admissions. Like, I just could not find a professor that would work with me to advise me with research experience. And so that brings me to my first limitation for majoring in STEM. At my school, a biology degree meant that you were defined as pre-med. I didn't get support from my professors because I did not want to go to medical school. I didn't want to go to PA school, dental school, veterinary school. Like, no professional school was of interest for me. And I do distinctly remember my microbiology professors actually telling me no, that they would not be able to mentor me. So I found another professor to be my mentor, not in my discipline, He was actually a marine biologist that studied sharks for years, but he took me under his wing, and so that was how I was able to get another cool experience in undergrad. As far as majoring in STEM, I would definitely suggest finding one professor or two or whatever to get to know while you're on campus. One that is willing and able and wants to help you flourish. There's opportunities to gain experience, but you have to find it yourself, and you have to put yourself out there. The professor that I got to know was the department chair at the time, and so his thing was communicating science. Every opportunity that I got to do was because of him pushing me towards the idea of STEM outreach and science communication to anybody that would listen. He let me tag along on all of his events and adventures and encouraged me to find a voice in translating science to others. He let me accompany him on going into the community and teaching kids and grade school students about science. We went electrofishing and taught them about fish species native to the state of Georgia. We taught them microscopy with light and stereoscopes to view bugs and microbes. We performed dissections with them in class on sharks. We did fossil show and tells as well as presentations to K through 12 students about biology. I had one moment that absolutely melted my heart where this little girl was like, what is this? What are you doing? And I was like, I study biology. And she was like, wow, I want to study biology when I get big too. And ever since that moment, I understood what this professor was getting at, that representation matters, and you cannot expect students to pursue a field that they were never exposed to. It is very important to have these STEM outreach and engagement programs in grade schools to help them see other careers that they may have never heard of. I can get on my pedestal about that, but so many experiences like that helped me find my love for science, and part of why I made this channel. I also remember him telling me that it takes one person to see themselves in you and to find motivation for a career that they did not know about. So I love to learn and I love to share the knowledge with others, and that professor really showed me ways to communicate science to the community. So it's something I've grown to enjoy, and I do hope that one day I can get back into it, but for now, showcasing my medical lab science journey on my channel is just my starting point. Those were my experiences in undergrad. I do have a few things to say to the aspiring microbiology major. It's not about being smart for studying microbiology, but you need to be disciplined. The smartest person in a room can be the laziest person and still fail. So I do not think that just being smart will get you by, but having discipline and work ethic will take you far in your academic journey. I do feel like anybody can get through anything as long as they are willing to put in the work. That includes figuring out your study strategies, prioritizing your assignments and papers, and just overall time management, which are all important parts of school, but they are also important for the job when you graduate and enter the workforce if you want to work in a laboratory setting. So yes, please just do your best. And if you feel like your best is not enough, know when to reach out for help. Allow your professors to support you, but they will not know that you need help unless you say something. I absolutely stand by studying smart and not hard. If you have tried resources and self-studying and it's not helping, get the tutoring if you need it. Like I've been saying, I was a tutor for 3 out of 4 years of undergrad. So I was a person people came to for support when they needed help. I also went to tutoring in office hours myself. Tutoring helped me gain a very good understanding of chemistry and organic chemistry in order for me to be successful in school. And it also helped me not develop this bad feeling with chemistry like some people have in general. But yeah, tutoring, especially peer tutoring, is for everyone. Don't feel like you cannot seek help. Please do not struggle all through a class without reaching out to the professor, your advisors, your academic support services, your classmates. Like somebody can help you. I have so many memories of my college friends and us supporting each other while we were studying these really, really hard classes together. And we leaned on one another for support. So you'll know by the first exam if you're gonna need to put in more work than usual. Don't wait till the last exam when it's too late to recover the grade. One thing in STEM that matters is your grades, especially if you want to go back to school later. Do what you need to do now, not just to get the grade, but to also have the understanding and foundation you need to enter the workforce or take on professional grad school or whatever you want to do next. And that leads me to my next point. When you begin deciding what you want to do post-grad, that is where extracurriculars come in to build your academic resume. It's nice to have some kind of relevant work experience, but people understand if you don't have it coming out of school, unless it is required. But joining clubs and engaging in extracurricular activities to build your academic resume is a great way to get started on preparing for your post-grad journey. For me personally, I did not have medical laboratory experience when I entered my field. I had experience as a research lab assistant and a teaching lab assistant, but nothing to do with the medical lab. However, these experiences still show that I have a decent understanding of biological concepts relevant to the field, and they even asked me about these experiences on my job interviews. So we all come to STEM and healthcare from different backgrounds with different goals in mind. So the personal experience is going to vary. And if you have an interview, your academic resume can give them some points to bring up during the interview that will give you the chance to talk about why your experiences helped you get to this career decision, and why you want this specific job, or why you want to attend this specific graduate program. So yes, building an academic resume is a great way to prepare for your jobs or graduate school. I graduated university in summer of 2019. I found a part-time job working as an adjunct at a technical college in August of 2019. And that's what I did for 3 years up until I got my first job in the hospital lab. I was able to teach labs, teach dual enrollment courses, and remediate students in courses for biology, microbiology, anatomy, and physiology, and chemistry. And I also remember teaching like pharmacology at some point. But yeah, so I got a good bit of teaching experience right out of school. And it's just awesome because most of my students went on to become pharmacy technicians and dental assistants, clinical lab technicians, radiology technicians, and nurses, as well as continuing education onto the university level. So it's just nice to know that I was a part of their academic journey, and I was able to help them learn and find tools to be successful in school going forward. The best part of teaching for me is the moment where a student's light bulb just clicks in their head and the concepts just come together. So yes, I enjoyed that job and I did it for 3 years, but I had to leave just because of schedule constraints from the hospital jobs. And these hospital jobs are not accommodating to life outside of healthcare, so I had to let it go. But teaching is something that I hopefully can do in the future as a lecturer after I have my master's degree. Also, when the pandemic hit, I had another new job opportunity because of my microbiology degree. I worked as a public health case investigator at my state's public health department. This was a cool opportunity to gain experience in public health and epidemiology. For certain diseases like COVID, positive cases were required to be reported to the state. I would investigate and gather data on the signs and symptoms the patient experienced, their possible exposure, especially if it was an outbreak-related case, and their contacts or who they possibly exposed to the disease. And then the contact tracers would get in touch with anybody who was in contact with this positive case and get them to isolate so that we could prevent the spread of disease. So I did this job also for almost a year. Yeah, now I currently work in medical microbiology as a medical laboratory scientist in the hospital setting. I will say that my microbiology degree did help me. Each microbiology course I mentioned earlier had its own laboratory component. So in the lab, I learned how to use agar plates to grow certain pathogens and inhibit others, how to isolate organisms, how to use biochemical methods to identify organisms. And so in these academic labs, we observed bacterial growth characteristics, we compared species to other species, we used microscopy, and we practiced identifying unknown organisms. All these skills are things that I do at work now. But I still like to joke that I literally get paid to play with microbes. Of course, in my state, jobs do require certification before working in the hospital laboratory. So the microbiology degree did not help me get certified, although it did make me eligible to go back to school. And it also made medical lab school a hell of a lot easier. But besides that, I felt pretty versed in theory for the actual job. To also say that in academia, you are in a controlled learning environment. Academic labs do not compare at all to the real world work experience. But it's still important to have a foundational level of understanding so that you can learn on the job. And I want to mention that technology has also advanced the medical world, especially in microbiology testing. The majority of biochemical methods I learned in undergrad are no longer used in the real world. And I was taking those classes from 2016 to 2019. So that was only 4 years ago. Now the real world is heavily molecular based with RT-PCR and mass spectrometry, rapid antigen kits, immunoassays, and a bunch of other methodologies. It was kind of a culture shock for me. I expected to come into the field doing a lot of manual methods because that's what I was taught in undergrad and taught in my post-grad program too. I mean, it was mentioned very briefly in textbooks at Max, but it just wasn't emphasized enough how much we actually use technology in a real world setting. I do think there are a ton of careers in microbiology. It's just a matter of doing a lot of personal exploration and finding what fits you the best. I'm in clinical microbiology, but there's food microbiology, environmental microbiology, public health microbiology. Like, you can get into biosafety and inspections if you want to, and you can also go into research if you want to do those things by pursuing a microbiology degree. One thing that I really do value in my career is learning, and so I just naturally go in the direction of whatever new experience is going to inspire me to keep learning more. So I also want to mention that you should find what motivates you. Why do you want to embark in a career in microbiology? So hopefully this video was helpful for me to share my experience as a microbiology major, at the very least, giving you some ideas of how you can spend your time in undergrad. I definitely recommend that if you study any science major, say yes to every opportunity that presents itself. You never know what you actually like until you try it. Thanks for watching. Comment down below if this video was helpful or if you have any more questions. Subscribe to my channel to keep up with my journey in the lab, and I'll see you guys next time.